Hey, it's Will here, and welcome to this week's Photography Explained Landscape Photography Photo Review Club. And there we go, all done in one sentence about screwing it up. Well, we're going to take a look at some photos from our Facebook group here, which is called, unsurprisingly, the Landscape Photography Photo Review Community. There's a couple of we're going to start with Dan's photo here, a couple of absolute bangers that have been published since the last stream. And so I'm really nearly swore, really looking forward to jumping into them. That doesn't count. So if it's less than one or two syllables of the full word, I don't think that counts. But yes, I'm excited. Right. Any questions, any thoughts, leave a message on the stream and we can kind of show them on screen and we can run through them. And if you would like to see your images on the next stream, do just join the club. It's completely free images in here, and you're going to get a bunch of feedback, a bunch of lovely thumbs up, comments, shares, and you can see this post here from Dan's had 2,000 odd people see it, which is pretty cool. So let's pull it up. What do we think of this image? I think compositionally, I've no idea where this is. Catskill Falls, New York, taken from behind the falls. So I think compositionally, it's lovely. Obviously, my eye kind of comes in through is it slate down here? I don't know if it's slate or I think it's slate, and it comes round through these trees, back to the waterfall, then out toward the light at the far end of things. The only comments I've really got for yourself, Dan, and people watching is this light is a little bit harsh and heavy. For me, because it's almost a bit glowy otherwise. I think you may have added some autumn effect potentially down here because it looks a bit soft. But the thing that I'd be considering is how can we soften the light here and just make it a bit more dreamy. You've also got a dramatic drop off in contrast from like the rocks. If I just put it into Photoshop, this is a image that I'm working on with our Landscape Mastery program. You got quite a dramatic drop off of contrast all of a sudden from, that's a big old brush, from here to here. So if there is going to be a drop off of contrast as this goes further behind, or perhaps the sun is hitting this more directly, I don't know, then we want the drop off of contrast to be less harsh, because you see we've got some shadows here and then we've got zero shadows immediately after. So that's the one thing that caught my eye. But the other thing is this light in the center of the frame. There's a whole bunch of ways we could potentially deal with that, but I think the easiest thing to do is if we go and add just a bit of negative dehaze, and we've got some red clipping there. But this is the JPEG. I guess we shouldn't really have red clipping in the JPEG either. But something that can help with this, opposed to the raw files, this is not going to be as effective, but just a little bit of negative dehaze, which removes some clarity, softens the image. We can always add some warmth back into it if we want. And then I would take a look at where the actual sun is down here. Again, just a little bit of negative dehaze, just to soften that out. That little bit of glow there, I think, makes a decent difference. And then basically what we're trying to get rid of is some of these really hard edges. So again, you go into this as deep as you like. We can just select a brush, please. And again, dehaze, just try and soften some of these edges. And the other way of going about doing that is with literally a brush. Oops. We're going to choose the color picker. We're going to choose this with a little bit more color in it. Just a bigger, softer brush. And just kind of soften across here. I'll do that on a new layer so we can adjust it. If I do a new layer, add even more color in, I think. Coming out very white. So we can add more color to that, but adjust our opacity and just soften it around there. Just take the edge off, basically. That would be the only thing I consider. And again, just makes it pop a little bit more because the edit is quite a magical edit rather than a documentary style edit. And the only other thing as I sit here and notice it is if only we had a panel to make these brush adjustments really quickly. That'd be really helpful. A Photography Explained specific panel to do that for these live streams. You've got quite a lot of haloing around the edges of things. So you've obviously done a sky mask and tried to darken the sky to match the darkness inside the cave here. But this part is very bright. This part is quite bright, and then the halos there. You see this edge of pixels that this kind of like line of pixels across here. Just increase this. That's with the masking being a little bit off, so that's something to consider. But otherwise, banging photo, I absolutely love it. I'd be dead happy if I took it myself. I would just be wanting to work on the sun and just softening it. It's not even softening it. It's making it like bleed out a little bit more. And it would also make it a little bit more epic as well, doing that. So that's an image from Dan. Congrats, Dan. That's a lovely photo. Got a bunch of attention on here. We'll just go to recent, just so I don't miss anything. There's me. The inception has begun. Interesting how it's doing real-time subtitles as well. Okay, Kevin. The issue with this image is you've got a beautiful sky and nothing in front of it. That is the issue. So I would have been looking at a telephoto shot of if these are hills or mountains with the sky above it, maybe in a portrait composition, because it's almost a waste of a beautiful sky right now. If the horizon was just flat, then perhaps that would work. But as it is, we need a little bit more in there. And we have Witchbait. Hello, my friend from Florida. And we have Luke, I think, from Italy. Hey, Luke. Hope you're doing well, mate. Okay, Eugene. Okay, so the first thing I see is the curvature across the horizon. And then, right, I'll just go. I think Eugene is capable of taking a bit of a stick with his photos because he's a good photographer. So I see the curve across the horizon. I also see these really obnoxious dust spots. And if I can spot a dust spot without really paying too much attention to the image, it means that you've paid zero attention to the dust spots. And then other than that, it's just noisy as heck. So I won't. You know, Eugene, how to take a photo, mate. So you've done a long exposure. You've just used high ISO, I guess. I would run this through some denoising tool and just see if you can save it. And then is there a way to just crop off a little bit on the side over here? Regular viewers will know that I tend to do my... Oops. I crop all my images to standard formats. That's because I hang them up in my home, hang them on my walls at home. But an image like this, that is a superior... Oops. Has a superior crop when we go to 1 pixel. Go to you. I think that's a superior crop. But it's interesting. I don't know what this is. It's some kind of... It's too shallow to have ships coming in, surely. So it's a walkway to... I don't know if this is a lighthouse at the end or something. It's a cool location. You got a ship off at sea. Maybe I'd get rid of that. If there's an element of the scene that is that may not be there if I close my eyes and reopen them again 5 minutes later, then I will just get rid of it. That's my kind of rule for removing stuff. But nice job, Eugene. What's Dan saying here? I'm very curious as to how long your exposure was whether you used an ND filter. Let's find out. It was pitch dark, horrible stormy weather, sudden patches of rain, a strong wind all day. To use a 3-minute exposure to get any light in the sky, but because the wind is not very part. So there we go. So Doesn't explain why it's noisy though. I think the 3-minute exposure, nothing to do with the ISO noise. Right, this next image, bit of controversy when I looked at this. Controversy yesterday. Bunch of comments, which is nice. 8 comments. Is this a landscape image? Was the question I saw in the comments down here. I think it is. Is it a good landscape image? That is up to the eye, in the eye of the beholder. I think there's just too much green in the foreground here. The subject is the bush, the flower bush, and this rock is fine because it gives depth. It gives some perspective as to the size of the bush, and we've got the trees then behind it. So we've got this perspective, so our brains can see big rock, bush, tree. But I think there's just too much grass in the foreground, which is a shame because you've got a nice kind of a series of colours here as well. It's a little bit washed out. You definitely clip the highlights. So if I was stood next to you and you were taking this shot, regardless of composition, I would be telling you to reduce your exposure to protect these highlights, and then we can always increase the brightness in post-production after the fact. But good effort of Wise, Cornelius. Appreciate you posting it. Next, we have Tom. There's an opportunistic photo taken early using my phone. It was edited on the phone. Any thoughts what I could have done better on my phone? For me, the quality is just terrible because it was taken on your phone. But the issue is this church, it's like a church or a castle in the background. There's not much you can do about this because if you got much lower, so that the church or the tower would hide behind this hedge, then you'll be too low and you're gonna miss out a bunch of the windmill. So I would have probably got on top of this grass verge if possible, separated this tree from the windmill and tried to make, or maybe even walked around to the right hand side and shot more kind of bottom right to left to eliminate that from the scene. It's a cool place though, very pretty. I'm sure it was a lovely place to have a nice walk. Okay, Andre posted 2 photos. What I should be doing right now is remove post and then clicking this button, but you posted it yesterday and I didn't check this morning. So this is a bridge and a waterfall. So I think this perspective is more interesting, but because you've used I think a wider angle lens here, potentially it looks just smaller and less impressive. If the waterfall continued and the foreground of the shot had some moving water rather than just this line of reflection from, I think, the waterfall itself, that would probably help it. But it's probably better off in a square crop. It's probably that shot in a square crop without the, whatever this is, someone throwing a rock in the water as well. Shots like this, you really need half decent conditions because it's an interesting, if you stood there, it's interesting to look at, but for someone else who isn't stood there, it's not all that interesting. So this is where you need fog or mist or interesting light to really pull this off because it seems very man-made, right? Or at least engineered with the bridge going across. So again, if I stood there, it'd probably be really pretty. It would sound really nice. You'd have nice water moving and crashing at the bottom of the waterfall. But for a landscape photo, you need the conditions to be good to pull this one off. Cool. How we have my high. So cardinal sin has been committed. This is super wonky. So we can't, but it looks like quite gnarly conditions. Where is this? In Greece. So the dead giveaway that this is wonky is that if you had a cup of tea and you put it on a table in one of these houses, it'd be sliding off the side. Perspective-wise, if the houses didn't have flat roofs, it would be more difficult to tell that it's wonky, but it's absolutely wonky. But I'm not sure this is really a landscape photo. I think basically you've got too much foreground that is not interesting, and then there's a bunch of houses. This would be more interesting with a house or something else going on that land itself. So yeah, correct the, we'll just do it. It's easier to show rather than tell, right? So I would be straightening it up. Now we're going to lose a bunch of the image by straightening it up. Get it something. That's how wonky it was, right? So we're going to get it halfway there. So now we're straight. So now it looks a bit more flat and boring because everything's a bit flatter in the image itself. But I'd be probably doing a 16:9 kind of crop. You can see very quickly now that the foreground becomes less of an issue. And it becomes a lot more of an interesting photo now. And all we've done is straighten it. The crop itself, the straightening of it, the image itself has removed a bunch of the foreground. And then put it into camera raw. Would you want a bit more contrast? Probably darken off the sky a little bit because it's just bright and our eyes are flying out the top end of it. So I'll just add a bit of a curve. Just add a bit more contrast. And then just the very top bit, just darkening off. But yeah, the top half of the image has gone wonky because has gone all over the place because we don't have enough data there to really make those changes. So we'll keep it like that. You can pull the contrast in further. What's the white balance like? These houses look a little bit odd color-wise because they're going to be near white, right? So it becomes a nice kind of documentary travel. So, you know, I don't think it's a landscape photo, but the before and after. Got a nice football pitch down here. Some basketball courts. I don't know where this is, but it's a cool little town or village. Oh, it's a village, I guess. So they're the changes I'd make. So hopefully that is helpful. My high in Greece. Beautiful Greece. Cool. Eugene, we've covered one of yours, mate, so we'll skip that one. Stephen James, what a legend. What do we think of this one? Richbane asks, how do we submit a photo? If you jump onto this Facebook group, just search for Photography Explained Photo Review Club and just dump your images in there. Dump one image at a time and you'll get feedback from me, from other people in the group, and we can cover any interesting ones on the live streams as well. So hopefully that helps. So Stephen James, what do we think of this? I like the shape, the texture, these waterfalls coming off the edge of these mounds, whatever it is, Milford Sound. I've heard of Milford Sound in New Zealand, but I have no idea what it is. The only thing I'd think about with this, and Stephen, you're a great photographer anyway, you can make your own assessments and judgments on this, but I think the sky is too bright. I might have a light patch kind of, you know, if we know where the sun is, which I don't. Oops. I might want to just vignette the sky just to keep my eye towards the center of the frame because it seems like there's a brighter patch here. So I kind of want to emphasize that. Create a mask, invert it, bring down the exposure. Got a darker patch up there, which is not ideal. we probably want to brighten that corner just slightly to compensate. But I'd be adding, and I'd take away some of that blue in that corner as well, but I'd be adding a vignette like that just to really polish this off. And then how far away are we from clipping? So you're not that far away from clipping, so I'd probably add like a big soft gradient here. Just increase the exposure until we're only clipping in the blue. So turn that off. Just to emphasize what's already there. So something a bit more like that. That's what I would be looking for. And the previous edit is just a bit more like documentary style, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. I would just push. It's just such an epic scene. I would just push it that little bit further and pull my eye towards the kind of center of the frame there. So with this, my eye kind of gets pulled outwards from these two mounds or bits of, I don't even know what these are, cliff edges. I think there's more cliff down the side here. You've also got quite a lot of noise. This might just be, I don't know, I think you do have noise in it as well as just the kind of JPEG conversion. But I think with just a slight vignette, it sorts out this top corner, remove some of the blue from up there potentially. It just keeps my eye in the frame as opposed to kind of shooting out from it. So that's all I would be considering. And then just brightening the patch in the center there again, just to pull my eye towards it. But a really beautiful photo. You've done a fantastic job. Come on. Cool. Wasim. Dan giving some feedback here. Okay, understand I'm not an expert, but I know what I like. This is, well, whoa, definitely not reading all that, but we appreciate the long comment, Dan. I'm sure Wasim, even though he hasn't responded, he should respond. If you want to get more feedback and comments on your images, reply to the people that are giving you the feedback in the comment, because people recognize people are engaged in the community, and the more engaged people are, the more likely you are to get responses. Now, with that all said, I would say there's too much sky. My immediate criticisms are there's too much sky that isn't really doing anything for the image. You've almost got these sweeping lines, but they don't really, they kind of pull us towards the subject, but not really. But the main issue is, just, I don't know if there's just trash on the beach. Which is fine, because I mean, Wasim, you've not really given us any information here as to what this is, what the context of it, or anything like that. So maybe it's just a trashy beach. There's two chaps here on horses, but the horse overlapping the rocks in the background, we need to brighten the horse or darken the rocks or do something just to separate them. But it's not really a landscape image. I saw this one and I didn't remove it because I quite like it as a photo, but it's not really a landscape photo. As this one isn't either, but at least this is it got some beautiful light and it tells a bit of a story. I think we need to probably be stricter in the group as well. I think moving forward, that's something I'm going to take a look at. If it doesn't have a hill, a tree, a beach, if it's not a traditional-ish landscape scene, then we'll probably start removing them to encourage everyone to post those kind of images. The other thing I'm going to suggest as well, like hashtag daily life, doesn't help anyone really understand what this image is or give any context to it. Dan is doing the Lord's work down here. Exactly. This isn't really landscape. Don't be disappointed if the administrator deletes it. I've got all the power. I'm the administrator. Fine. That's the same Dan Kelvin, Dan Park. Driftwood. Let's take a look. So this is a lovely image. What feedback do we have for this? It's very cold and blue. You've got beautiful reds, beautiful oranges to the side of the image over here. So would the feeling of this change slightly if it was just warmed up potentially? that is something to consider. Color. I think I prefer it a bit warmer. So before, after, I think I prefer it warmer. Other than that, it's been exported quite small file size wise, and so I don't know if you've missed focus here or if it's just the way that the JPEG has been rendered. But I would consider that. What else would I consider? It's kind of awkwardly balanced, which is good because it still works. So if you have something that's awkwardly balanced and still works, it means that it's well thought out and is a very competent image. The only thing I'd perhaps consider is just similar to the last photo. We'll just bounce these two down to one layer. Maybe just slightly darkening the sketch a little bit, just to keep my eye in the frame. That might even be too much. So minus point. So again, even only very subtle. I think that is a difference. A change I would make. And then yeah, other than that, I think it's a really cool image. I'm not always one for long exposure with blurred clouds, but when the water is so smooth that it's obviously been long exposure on the water to smooth it out, I think it matches up quite nicely. You got a little bit of, if I just added that vignette in the top corner, was that there? You got a little bit of vignette in the corners. I think when you're doing, like, you may have added a slight vignette to this in post-production. I think if you're going to do a vignette, you got to be really, you got to make it look purposely like a vignette. Here it looks like you've just got some darkness in the corners from your filters. So I'd probably just brighten that up and balance out the corners before then I would do the linear gradient in the top half. Because you may have stacked some filters to get the exposure time that you needed potentially. So that's me. Definitely this top left-hand corner. And we're being pedantic here, obviously. It's a lovely image. Definitely that top left-hand corner, and probably the exposure overall could be a bit higher. Sometimes I get the exposure wrong, my exposure suggestions wrong on live streams like this because I've got two big lights blasting at me, which changes how you perceive the exposure of the image in front of you on the screen, right, when you're editing. But for anyone who's looking at this and wondering why is this such a lovely photo, there's really lovely separation here between the reflection of the hill on these branches. You almost got like a bit of mirroring with these branches and the branch there. This branch has been strategically placed just so it crosses over the hillside there. And then it's done its best to not overlap the shadows too much, keep them slightly more separate, just so it's not as distracting at the bottom of the frame. So yeah, good work, other than those little bits of feedback there. But again, that's just personal decision more than anything else. Let's see what people are saying. Fedor says, how long was the exposure? There was still too much daylight, and the effect of the still water and the cloud movement required an ND filter. Excess of 30 seconds, and a depth of field like 32 to maximize sharpness. A depth of field like 32. If you're using an aperture of 32, maybe it's a large format sensor. Otherwise, you're not going to be maximizing any sharpness with 32. An aperture of 32 because of diffraction. Fine, cool. Some lovely comments there. So yeah, could be cold, could be warm. So it looks a bit green there. Yeah, I do it because of the warmth in the light that's coming through. It doesn't make sense to my eyes that the whole thing could be very cold. It would surely be slightly warmer, but just my 2 cents. I am certainly not the end all and be all with landscape photography. Right, we'll do a handful more. Sunrise from Hardy's Monument. So the only things to consider with this is a lovely shot. This is kind of like my type of photography, right? So very British, and right now with the photography I'm doing, very British and Yorkshire Dales-esque. Do you need this top layer of sky? Can we get rid of that? Would a 16:9 crop might be just a bit too tight? Just 16:10 maybe. So don't mind the grass in the foreground. I think that helps. You've got a load of noise in the clouds up here, so definitely run this through. This is not a paid advertisement. They've sponsored the podcast they've sponsored the YouTube channel previously, but I use DxO Pure Raw for all of my images. It's just insane. It's easily the best product for raw conversion at the same time doing sharpening and denoising. So this, they're not paying me to communicate this with you right now, but they've sponsored a video on the YouTube channel. But I use it and I promote it and talk about it all the time. So I mean that is a tool. If you're taking beautiful photos like this, that is something to consider to get rid of the noise or reduce and eliminate as much of this noise as possible. The only other thing to think of is it's difficult to do when the sun's blasting you in the face with a shot like this. Because as you regular viewers will know, I do a lot of photography where the sun is in the frame. Epic like sunsets and sunrises. So it's difficult. It's one thing to say this. It's quite another thing to actually do it in the field when the sun is setting, the clouds are in the perfect position, and all that good stuff. But one thing I would just suggest is if you could have just got a tiny bit lower and just created a bit of separation between the edge of this face and the tree there. You obviously pondered this because you've done a good job separating these two trees, which is really important. But just a touch lower, just to separate those two, would have just added another element, another layer of polish to the image. And then similarly to the when we talk about in the first photo, just softening the light. I think you just soften the light here a little bit further. And one way to go about doing that is using the glow tool in Luminar Neo. Although Luminar Neo broke for me earlier today, so this might not be the best demo of it. We'll see what happens. If it loads at all. If it doesn't load, that is also fine. We will just carry on. And then undoubtedly it'll load in 5 minutes and get in the way of something else. Fine. It's not the greatest advertisement for Luminar Neo, is it? Fine. We'll come back to it, see if it opens up at some point. All I'm going to do is add a bit of glow to the sun here just to soften the edges of it. Because if you were to look at this scene with your eyeballs, you'd be blind. If you would look at this scene with your eyeballs with sunglasses on, the sun would be softer. So that's just something to consider. Can we close this? Fine, we've now crashed Photoshop. No, we haven't. So yeah, something to consider. And something to consider maybe like the autumn effect on a shot like this. So if I duplicate a layer, go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I'm going to just add a mask. I'm going to invert the mask. Whoops. And then I'm just going to get a big soft brush. Hardness all the way down, flow all the way down. I'm just going to paint white onto the mask here. Why don't you switch it? Paint white onto the mask. Just allow that little bit. See, I'm overdoing it there, and I'm going to reduce the fill. But just that little, hopefully you can see that. Just that little bit of softness. Because that's what happens when we look at the sun, and that just polishes. To me, that just polishes an image like this off. Just a gentle bit of autumn effect just on that part of the frame. Just soften the sun, and it becomes a little bit more like there's probably a technical way to describe this, but almost like artistic. And if you were to print something like that, that's the difference between kind of a snapshot and, you know, like a really polished landscape photo. Again, it's only subtle. It's only when I appreciate you watching this over a live stream, so it's only probably when I zoom in you can see the difference. But for a shot like this, it's absolutely worth going the extra mile with it. So cool, good work, Chantal. Fine. This is definitely not a landscape photo. It's a nice photo, but we will not review that one. Is it a landscape photo? Debatable. It's a cool photo. Definitely wonky, the horizon, but you must be using a tripod to shoot lightning. So no excuse. I was going to say if you were doing it handheld and you managed to capture lightning and it was slightly wonky, perhaps we could forgive you. Shot from Stephen James. Where is this? Give us some notes, my man. Lake Ua in New Zealand. This is this looks like you just copy and pasted or like clone copied this mountain range in there. It's a crazy mountain range. I think you can do a better composition than this. So Stuart McGlennon is my photography mentor, and he has told me off numerous times for taking a shot of rock in front of thing. And that is what you've done right here. This did not need to be necessarily a wide angle shot. I think the grasses are probably more interesting than this just random rock. Maybe the grass is leading in or standing further to the right over here. So those grasses sweep around a little bit. The grasses are probably the foreground interest rather than this rock. And then the background mountains are incredible, obviously. So maybe you didn't want... I think you're like me. I've seen quite a few photos on here, Stephen. You like doing the big, wide foreground, big impact foreground shots. But this isn't... When I look at this rock here, I'm disappointed, and I look at the background and I'm like, bloody hell, that's fantastic. And so it's almost a better photo without this foreground attached to it. The foreground drags down the background. You obviously got beautiful clouds and the clouds whipping up against the sides of the mountains here. So yeah, I would be, and you've got lovely reflections here of the mountains in the water. So I would have just ditched the foreground and gone and found something else over there. Obviously, again, easy to say in hindsight, more difficult to do in real time. But yeah, not lovely location and conditions, not the best composition. Cool. Philip, hello, just joined this group. Sounds like it could be very interesting. Seeing other people's work. So here's one of mine in Kilchurn Castle. This is nice. You've got a nice composition. You probably move around to get rid of just the rocks and rubble in the foreground here, but you've got obviously layers of the foreground. You've got the castle, the sweeping hill in the background, and probably a mountain behind that. I think just the conditions are nice. Maybe this is obviously a lovely day to go for a walk, but I don't think the conditions are really kind of blowing anyone's socks off with a shot like this. But good effort, Philip. Keep it up, mate. Right. Is a golf course a landscape? A golf course gets landscaped, but is it a landscape? Robert Smith. So it's obviously like a beautiful sunset. But yeah, I don't think this is a landscape photo. And if you wanted to make it more of a landscape photo, definitely get rid of this iron fence and focus more on these trees potentially. That'd be my feedback. You definitely don't want stuff on the edge of the frame. So this bit of tree or something on the one side, and you got another bit of tree on the other. But no, yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful to stand there and watch it. Cool. Sunrise in... I don't know why it says... Maybe this is like the title rather than the description. It didn't come up on the side here. Sunrise in South Korea, Busan. So, what have we got here? We've got 2 and a bit boats. and a sunrise behind a hill. I think the shot is, and we just don't need all this foreground. Don't need any of that foreground. So like a 16:9, a real strong like pano crop, and we're getting there. But it's a beautiful sunrise. This is the kind of thing that, again, that when you're stood in front of it, you're like, wow, this is epic. But it's quite, because there's not a lot going on, it's quite difficult to capture it as a landscape image. But it's nice. I appreciate you posting in the group, Robert. Okay, Eugene, we covered on yours earlier. I think probably similar kind of feedback on this image here. My high, we covered one of yours earlier. The issue you got here is you just got grand nothingness in the bottom half of the frame. So you've got mountains in the background. So in Landscape Mastery, our training program, which I'll just pull up for sake of being complete as I talk about it. So if you go to Photography Explained, go to Landscape Mastery, you'll see the page, all the information on there. One of the training sessions is on composition, and the framework in a nutshell is find a background first, because there are far less backgrounds to shoot than there are foregrounds. On a beach like this, there's going to be a gazillion foregrounds. There's waves are changing all the time. There's just crap on the floor that you can use as a foreground. You don't even need a what we consider like a wide angle foreground. You can be shooting telephoto, but you need some kind of, unless you're doing something really abstract, you need a background, and your background is there on the middle left-hand side, this mountain range or whatever it is in the background. So it doesn't have to be in the center of the frame by any means, but with a shot like this, I'm probably going to put it in the center of the frame. It also means I'm going to walk up to, so background, foreground, tie them together, and then tidy up the frame. That's the framework for composition for a wide angle or a grand vista landscape photo. So background, check, it's there, it exists. So if this was just looking out to sea, if we were just looking out to sea, then it's kind of like these interesting clouds would be the shot. So, you know, that could be a lovely composition on its own. As I crop that in, that's probably, if you've got enough megapixels, depending on how this is taken, there's probably a shot there. The color balance is way off. It's way too cold. But there's definitely a shot there with these beautiful little clouds being our background of our subject. We've then almost got kind of we've almost got this kind of like line coming up towards them from the foreground. And we can emphasize this. We could dodge and burn this Z bit to really drag us towards that part of the frame. So that's one option for you. If you were stood there in exactly the same conditions again. The other thing is this definitely was a bit more warm. So before, after, this is definitely more accurately color balanced. But you've also got this mountain range or hill or whatever it is in the background over there. So the shot is almost certainly with that in the background, big epic sky above it, and then some kind of pattern or shape, or maybe not seaweed, but the waves coming in. When you've got waves coming in or out like that, depending on obviously where the tide's going in or out, there's always things to shoot to become your foreground. So you're going to have your background, you're going to have a nice foreground, you're going to be shooting in that direction. And these conditions are lovely, because when you then crop into that part of the frame, you can see that, you know, even kind of that on its own now starts to work, because we've got this beautiful light coming in and then the heavy dark skies above it. I think our horizon is wonky as well. So we'll fix that. But even that, you're now getting much closer to a landscape photo that looks like really aesthetically pleasing. So anyway, some food for thought. That's something to consider. We teach this inside Landscape Mastery. There's a video up here that explains it all. Does it sound like you? Sorry for me. A bunch of video testimonials from some wonderful people, some wonderful folks who've been through Landscape Mastery in the past few months. this is what you get each week. So week 2 is the capture framework, where I go through that exact process, give you a bunch of examples, and really drill it into you so that you don't have to think about it. After 1 or 2 shoots, you don't have to think about it. You'll just see compositions in the landscape. More testimonials from lovely people who've been through Landscape Mastery, and you also get access to our exclusive toolkit as well that helps you find new locations, store them so you don't forget about them, and then forecast them in real time as well. More video testimonials, a bunch of bonuses, and yeah, if you want to check it out, go to photographyexplained.com, click Landscape Mastery, and click this button to apply. The reason that I've had a few questions about this, the reason you have to apply to Landscape Mastery is that it's oversubscribed every time we run it. So I only bring in photographers that I know that I can guarantee, because the guarantee is very broad. We go back to the previous page here. The guarantee is literally, if you're not happy and it doesn't work, I'll give you your money back. It's as simple as that. So I only bring in landscape photographers that I know that are going to have a load of success in the program. So apply. If you're a good fit, I'll send you a quick video message welcoming you or offering you formally a place in the program, and you get signed up. And that's how that works. So my hi, I appreciate you submitting the photo, but perhaps something to think about: background, foreground, tie it together. So that's a leading line, or linkages in contrast, whether that be light, dark, or soft, hard in color and tone and texture. And then prettying the frame is make sure there's not crap on the edge of the frame, stuff like that. That's the framework to run on. Cool. Right, a couple more of these, and then we will wrap up. Mustafa says, I feel like we've not done one of these in a while. Correct, sir. I've been doing loads of development and work with Landscape Mastery, and so I'm a little bit behind on these, but back on track now. We should be doing these once a week. If there's more photos, I'll do them more than once a week, because obviously this is an easy bit of content for me to create, and a great pleasure for me to create it, because I'm just looking at beautiful photos, right? So Katrina, I recently started my photography journey. This is a photo I took in Devon. Trying to improve my skills. Feedback is welcome. So I think you've done a lot of things right here. As we just talked about in the previous image, you've got a clear background. You've got foreground elements, which then gives us depth. There's no like leading line really between them. So a footpath going from the kind of corner, and obviously I'm inventing stuff. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. But a footpath, tire tracks from a farmer's tractor, something leading up to this gate would tie these elements together, because it's a bit linear and stacked as it is. But again, we are shooting the reality that's in front of us, so that's fine. And then as to tidying up the frame, I think you've done a decent job. Perhaps you just want to just separate this bottom branch with the top of the hill. Other than that, it's quite clean and tidy. So the only thing really that you need in this, which then becomes a question of timing, is what you need is a big sodding sunrise over here. And this becomes an absolutely lovely photo then. Or you need some clouds, some stormy weather, something that isn't a blue sky, basically. But from a composition standpoint, really lovely. You've done a good job. So if you're new to photography and you are dialing in the composition, then it's just a case of getting out more and getting out in more interesting weather and conditions. And you don't have to be out in a storm, right? You don't have to be out in crazy conditions. But something more interesting than a blue sky day is what this image needs. Right. We're going to do a couple more. My high, we've been through a couple of yours. This is the wonkiest photo I've ever seen. Stephen, this is a lovely foreground, Stephen, in comparison to the previous one. You got these, you got leading lines, basically. So what Stephen's done here is background. So you've got this beautiful sky and mountains. Foreground, this rock that is not all that interesting of a rock, but the fact that it's just on its own makes it interesting. And then leading lines, so linking the foreground and background together. And then there's no crap or distractions on the edges of the frame. And so if you follow that process, again, for a more grand or traditional landscape photo like this, it works every single time. So Stephen's a skilled photographer. He's got that nailed. I might just be tempted to brighten this image slightly, just a touch. just a touch. I just feel like I can't quite see the foreground here. So not brighten to put it out of context, just maybe brighten the whole, increase the exposure of the whole image. So again, I said it earlier on, I'm filming this right now with two lights hit me right in the face. So sometimes overall exposure in image, I can get wrong on these live streams. But to me, in my eye, that looks stronger. And you've got loads of room on the histogram to pull this up. I still see that it's dark. I see that we've got a dark side and a light side. So we've got shape as to where the sun's coming from. But with that little bit of brightness, I can just see into some of the details where they're just a bit too dark for me otherwise. But Stephen, if you've got a calibrated monitor and you think this is the correct exposure, then fair enough. Something to consider. Right, we'll do one more. Fine. No, in fact, we're going to do two more because I saw this one earlier of the beautiful Lake District. Couple more questions. Question from Sergio. We don't publish the price of the training because every time we do it, we increase the price because it gets bigger and better every time. So if you want to know the pricing, just apply. And then if you apply to, there's no secrets. It's a pain in the ass to change all the prices on all the pages every time we increase the price, basically. So it'll never get cheaper. This is the cheapest or the lowest cost of investment it's going to be. So if you want to at least see what the pricing is and see what's involved in the training, just apply. If you're a good fit, I just then send you a quick video that explains all the pricing, how it works, the date it starts, all that kind of stuff. Because it's live. There's a bunch of live training, very much like what we're doing right now over Zoom calls. So hopefully that is useful, Sergio. I think Sergio, the main man. So two more. Stefan. If you didn't have this stupid bird box or whatever it is, I'd really like it. The tree's interesting. You've got the mist that just goes to nothing. It goes to a little bit too much nothing. It looks like that might have been engineered or enhanced a little bit in post-production. But this, I don't know, this is a bird feeder or something. You need to be off to the, if you went off to the left-hand side, you then create separation between the bird feeder. I'm going to call it a bird feeder. Is it a bench? Might be a bench or a swing. I don't really know. The wooden object, it would be further to the left. You'd have some separation from the tree. That might work, but then you'd lose the path, and the path might be a distraction because it would just be coming across the side of the frame rather than like leading us into the mist. That's the thing that I think holds this image back. And unless you're going to go move it, there's probably not much you could do. So you shot what you had. So I think it's a nice photo. And you've done the right thing of it being minimalist, desaturated, or lacking saturation. I don't know if you've literally desaturated it. You probably have. But it's nice, dreamy, almost a bit creepy. I can almost expect to see a shadow if I look hard enough, like a shadow appear in the background over there of a person walking towards me. And then we have Tom. Surprise view in the Lake District. I quite like this image, not because it is in good conditions, particularly good conditions, but because I've been up here a bunch of times and I've never managed to find, I've never even seen a good photo from up here, if I'm quite honest. For anyone who goes to the Lake District or is thinking about going to the Lake District, there's a car park 10 foot to the side of you. You have to go up a bit of a country road to get up here, which is a bit of a pain in the arse when it's busy. But other than that, it's like the easiest, nice view to go and shoot in the lakes. But I haven't really seen any good photos from up here. And you've sparked my curiosity to go up here and have a look because I've never shot something so wide. So I don't know if this is like a 180-degree pano maybe, because it looks, there's a bit of distortion in the image there. But it's interesting. And I thought this was, when I was looking through, it's worth considering for me to go and have another look because I would perhaps do it slightly different to yourself. I think it was Tom. But I think there is a big pano up here. Probably of something more like that. They're trying to simplify Simplify the frame best you can. But there's probably, you have to go even more than that, I think. I don't think I've seen anyone shoot that as a, well, obviously people must have. I've never seen any good photos of that as a pano. And you've also got a wonky horizon. It could just be distortion from the image itself. But I think that could be potentially a lovely pano, and I'm going to go and attack it. Attack it with vigor next time we're in the lakes. Because it's such a, you could just sit in the car park in terrible weather with a flask of coffee and have a chill, and then just pop out when there's a break and capture it. Heck, you could, might not leave my tripod up there because there's a bunch of scallies up there like Tom and me, so I don't want these stuff to get robbed. But you could almost get exactly where you want to be set up, go and sit in the car where it's just miserable, and it's literally 20 seconds walk to get across. And I think that is a pano that I'm going to consider. That's something I'm going to go after. So I appreciate you sharing, because again, I've been up here a few times. There's a really lovely woodland to the left of this. There's a hill and a woodland on the hillside, and because you've driven up to that top car park, you don't have to really do much climbing. You do some scrambling and kind of moving through thick bushes and trees, but other than that, it's not too much sweaty work. So I go up here somewhat regularly because we have a place in Keswick just down the side of the image down here. That's where we stay. So yeah, I think this is a good shout, and I'm going to try and get a pano up there. And if I do get a pano up there, Tom, you will see it in a video, and I will completely forget that you took this photo, and I will not credit you for it. And I apologize now, because once I close this live stream down, all these images will go in one ear or in one eyeball and out into my brain and out of my brain. So I apologize now, but you will be the inspiration for it, my man. And so call me out in the comments if you see it. And with that, we will wrap things up. A few more thoughts and questions. Bucky says, hello, I'm very new to photography, and your content is very extremely helpful. Thank you. You're more than welcome. Hopefully you stick with photography, and if there's anything I can do to help, do let me know, because I'm always keen to help landscape photographers grow and improve. And there's a few over here as well. But with that, we'll wrap things up. I appreciate you all, and we will do another one of these next week. So throw your images into the Facebook group, and I will see you either in Landscape Mastery. If you feel this is a good fit and you want to get started, jump in. So photographyexplained.com/mastery will take you to this page. Click this video and it'll explain how it all works. The training, the tools that we provide that are exclusive to people in Landscape Mastery, and all that good stuff. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next